All right, CE Sim Golf for part 3 of the advanced bunker texturing. Last time we worked in Blender to unwrap and then started in Photoshop applying that shape and painting what will become our texture. We finished by exporting the new FBX with the UV unwrap on it, and now we're going to jump back into Photoshop to work on that image a little more and then create our first texture material and apply it in Unity. So let's start with Photoshop. I got a little ahead of myself last time and forgot to suggest one step, and that is once we have a base Photoshop file created that we want to use to create many different bunker UV textures from. Before we start importing the shape of our UV export map and before we start painting our colors in and adding our footprint locations and things, what we should have done is done a file, save as, and named it specifically for the bunker we are going to be working on. So I did that before I started the video. I'll show you. So I went to save as, I went to my UV bunkers folder where I'm working on this course's stuff, and I saved it as a full Photoshop file, so I have all the same layers and everything there, and I named it 3928, which is the mesh number generated in Blender for it. So that is what I'm working with right now. It's still 4,000 pixels by 4,000 pixels. And so now that I have it saved as, and I know my bunker is not a huge bunker, I don't need a ton of pixel density for it. What I'm going to do is go to image, I'm going to go image size, and I'm going to change this down to 2048 square. I want to make sure it stays square. And that's just going to save me some memory, some texture size, performance-wise. It didn't change anything about the size of my image or the density of my rake lines or any of that. So everything is still where I left it. Now, what I'm going to do is to make a first basic texture. I'm going to turn off our outline layer. So then what we're going to want to do is we're going to save this as a PNG file. If I go to this bunker folder, this PNG file is the export that we did from Blender that gave us just the outline, the shape of our UV. So I'm going to name this one. I'm simply going to add, I'm going to go hole 10, or no, what hole did I say? This was hole 16, because that's the hole in the golf course. Bunker UV followed by the number for the mesh. So I just have multiple ways to identify where this file belongs. Let's see. Works for me. Okay. Now we're going to jump into Unity. 3928. Okay, so you can see some of my other textures in here. You're going to have materials. You're going to have a different material for each bunker that you are going to map this way. Unlike the other textures where you're using the same one for every sand trap, the same fairway tiling texture for every fairway, each bunker you do this for is going to be unique. So it will have its own material. If you go over to the material side here, these are the shaders. If you're not familiar with that, that just means it gives you the options of how you're going to create these textures. These are the ones created for us, the OPCD ones, dual text standard, satellite standard. I've played with them all. I gotta be honest, my favorite one for this is to use standard roughness setup. And I haven't even messed around with all the options in here yet, but this one has worked really well for me so far, so we're just going to go with that. So here are all the options we have. Albedo is the same as what you would maybe see listed as a diffuse map. It's basically the image, the main component of it. So we're going to go over here into our project hierarchy. We're going to find our fold UV bunkers folder, or whatever folder you save these in. And here are the images that we created. So we're going to use this one right here. We're going to drag it over into this slot. So that's going to put it and give us our most basic version of this texture. And then all that's left to do is to apply that texture. So let's go back to our materials and let's drag it over. Instantly applied, you can see it's there. It's magically accurate. You can see where we painted the darker bottom in. If you go over here, you can see our footprints, but you can see there's some, it's very light. There's a bunch of glare. So, you know, this is not done, but you can see it's working. The easy things we can do to fix this so far, we're going to open up our material. This roughness slider, I'm not even going to use a texture for now. So this, think of it as a metallic almost. I know that there's a different slot for that, but if you were to make this all the way down to no roughness, then it's going to treat it as basically glass. It's going to be highly reflective. We're going to go nearly all the way the opposite direction. You know, depending on the quality of the sand on your course, maybe some really fine sand might have some reflection capabilities at an extreme sun angle, but I'm going to use nearly a fully rough surface. So now I don't have that glare anymore. But it's much lighter than the other bunkers on my course, and it needs to match. It still needs to fit in, right? So I kind of like the look. Maybe I need to lighten up the other textures I'm using, but for now, we just want to match it. Now there's a color swatch right next to the albedo. We're going to grab that. We're going to put this into, or you know, we could even just grab, sample a color out of our bunker. Obviously that's going to be too dark, but if we stay in that zone and we just pull it back a little, we're going to go towards gray. So you can see that'll adjust the overall color of our texture without changing any other properties. So I don't know, play around, match it the best you can. Now, just like that, we have created a bunker that is completely unique from all of the other bunkers on this course. We've barely touched the surface of what we can add to it. Right now, we only have those footprints, but as you can see, it's not repeating. Anything we do in this bunker will just be where we want it. So I'm going to save Unity. And there's still a few more steps to make this gorgeous and realistic. So let's head back into Photoshop and just do a couple more little things. So all we have so far is our footprints and some kind of darker, maybe wettish sand on the bottom. We're going to turn our outline back on so we can see the constraints that we're working within, our boundaries. And remember, we have all these layers in here of stuff we already added, and maybe we don't need it all. We definitely don't need it all on this particular bunker, but let's add a few things in and let's just see what it looks like. Let's just go, I'm gonna go with this unraked area. I'm gonna grab that, and I don't even have to use it all, but I'm gonna throw some over here. I'm gonna erase this whole part here. Soft edges are your friend. Use erasers that have soft sides to it so it blends slowly in. Let's zoom in a little more. Now remember, our tricks for trying to make this look a little bit more blended in. We're gonna take away the full black on that. Pull up our hues and saturations. It's already pretty gray. Lighten it up now. So we're going to use colorize. Now what that's going to do is basically make a grayscale that we can then color. So let's look for something about right. That's not too bad. And remember, we can also use over in our layers panel some different blending modes. Too dark, too harsh. That's not too bad. Even lighten's not bad. I'm gonna go with that, I think, just for some interest maybe. And then, I mean, we could throw some leaves in the bottom of our bunker. Except there's not really any trees. Scratch the leaves. There's no trees by the sand trap. That seems unlikely. But we've got stuff like this. And you can use your stamp and clone tool. We can go over to this unraked area and we can stamp this. We're going to go, yeah, just use the current layer. And just by grabbing some portions of that, we can just throw little bits and pieces in here and there. And I know everyone wants to see the rake lines, so so the one thing you're going to notice about these rake lines are that they are way too big in the scale of this, but the great thing is it's very easy to make them smaller. So let's see, there's some footprints here. Do you think this guy was maybe just a little lazy, or maybe the rake lines need to be somewhere else where the footprints are not? I don't know. What do you think? Got a lot going on in this bunker already. Maybe we go, maybe we rotate him around. That doesn't make any sense though, because he would be raking it on the outside. So maybe we go here. So we want these rake lines to match the same basic width as all the other rake lines that already exist in this trap, right? Otherwise it's going to look like someone had access to an absolutely giant rake, which just would not be very realistic, right? So, all right. So we've made that a little bit smaller there. Unlink these. And the tricky thing now is to make sure that we still can see through and that these are still blending in with the rest of the sand trap. And I'm feeling like it's just a little light. It's too light right now. We could also go and take our colored layer. Let's see, where was that? This one. If we move that above our rake lines, it'll give us, you can see that'll add a little color through there, which I'm still not totally happy with the way that looks. Maybe we just need to make these rake lines a little lighter in this case. See, that's the danger with these videos. You guys can just watch me. You're gonna end up just watching me play around with stuff forever, and that's not really what you need to watch, because this is all the artistic part. This is all the part that just going to take some time. I'm just going to change the blending on this to sometimes luminosity will give you a nice look. That's not too bad. I'm going to drop it just a little bit. But again, I don't want to see rake lines through the backside of this too much, which is what I'm going to cause. Alright, well, you get the idea. I'm not going to make you watch me do this forever. We're going to save as, let's see, did I turn my, let's turn my outline off. Go back to our PNG file format. And we're just going to go right over the top of the one we already did. Replace it. Now, when we bounce into Unity, boom, update. So you can see we've got our additional kind of roughness through there and there, not repeating. So anything we paint in Photoshop is now going to show up in here. And I'll tell you what, those rake lines are not bad. Not my best I've created, but it's not bad at all. For just a few minutes work on this one, I'm not too unhappy with that. My favorite bunker, here's an image of it. So this is on the 10th hole, and this is where I was working on that technique first to do rake lines, and I'm pretty thrilled with how that came out. You'll notice there's still a difference there. These rake lines, I mean, they look more like someone drew them on there, right? They don't quite have the depth. So that's what I'm going to work on in the next video, showing you how to generate some additional maps for some additional textures to add into this shader for our occlusion, for our normal map especially. So join us on the next video to make things look a little better yet. Thanks for watching.